I arrived unannounced at my parents' house for Sunday dinner, parking my truck on the street like I always did. Walking through the familiar side door, I froze in the hallway when my mother's voice carried clearly from the dining room. She was talking about me, calling me the dumb one. The entire extended family was there, and they erupted in laughter. Someone proposed a toast. Glasses clinked together like wind chimes. Then my mother's voice rose above everything else, proud and clear as a bell. "Here's to stupid relatives with money." More laughter rolled through the house. I stood there paralyzed in that hallway, completely invisible, listening to my own family mock me while celebrating the fact that I had become their personal bank account. I backed out of that house without making a sound. My hands shook so badly, I could barely grip the steering wheel. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, just staring at the dashboard, trying to process what I had heard. The worst part was not the words themselves. It was the casual cruelty of them, the comfortable laughter, like mocking me was something they did all the time when I was not around. My name is Walter. I am 32 years old, and I have spent most of my life trying to prove I was not what my family believed I was. Growing up, I was the middle child in a family that valued academic achievement above everything else. My older brother Marcus sailed through school, got perfect grades, went to Northwestern, became a corporate attorney in Chicago. He was the golden child, the one my parents showed off at every opportunity. Then there was me. I struggled. Words on a page never made sense the way they were supposed to. Letters flipped around. Reading took me 3 times longer than everyone else. Teachers were frustrated with me. My parents were embarrassed. I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 9, but back then, in our small town, people did not really understand it. They just thought I was slow. Dumb. The word my mother used so easily at that dinner table. My younger sister Amanda was the baby, the princess. She was not particularly smart or accomplished, but she was pretty and charming, and that was enough. She worked various low-paying jobs after high school, waitressing, retail, receptionist work, never staying anywhere longer than a year. But she was the one everyone protected, the one who got away with everything. I took a different path. After barely graduating high school, I started working construction. I was good with my hands, good at seeing how things fit together in the physical world, even if words on paper made no sense. I saved every penny I earned. At 24, I started my own landscaping company with a used truck and a trailer full of equipment I bought at an estate sale. 8 years later, I had built it into something real. I employed 32 people. We did high-end landscape design and property maintenance for estates and commercial properties across 3 counties. I bought a country house on 15 acres outside town 3 years ago. It had a stone exterior, a wraparound deck, gardens I designed myself, and a view of rolling hills that made me feel like I had finally made something of my life. But my family never acknowledged any of it. To them, I was still the one who did not go to college, the one who pushed a lawnmower for a living. My mother Eleanor constantly compared me to Marcus. At family gatherings, she would talk about Marcus's latest case, his big house in Chicago, his beautiful wife. Then she would glance at me and say things like, "Well, at least Walter has his little business," in a tone that made it clear she thought I was playing at being successful. My father Donald never defended me. He just stayed quiet, nodding along with whatever my mother said, keeping the peace the way he always had. For years, I had been the family bank. My father needed his truck repaired. I paid $4,000. My mother needed dental work. I covered $6,000. Amanda needed rent money. I loaned it to her 8 separate times, amounts ranging from $500 to $1,500. None of it was ever repaid. Most of it was never even acknowledged. I drove home to my country house that Sunday evening, sat on my porch, and made a decision. No more. I was done being their ATM. Done being the punchline to their jokes. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was Amanda, her voice bright and cheerful, like nothing in the world could ever be wrong. "Walter, I have the biggest favor to ask you," she said, not even bothering with hello. "What is it?" I asked, my voice flat. "Preston proposed. We're engaged." She squealed so loud, I had to pull the phone away from my ear, and I wanted to ask if we could borrow your house for the engagement party. Just for one day. "Your property is absolutely perfect, with the gardens and that big deck. Preston's family is really well off, and I want to make a good impression. Please, Walter? It would mean so much to me. I should have said no right then, but old habits die hard. The pattern of saying yes, of being the one who helps, of trying to earn the approval that never came, it was carved deep into me. I need to think about it, I said. Think about it, Walter. I'm your sister. This is my engagement. What's there to think about? I just need a day, Amanda. She huffed, annoyed, but said fine, and hung up. That evening, my mother called. Her tone was not asking. It was commanding. Walter, Amanda told me about the engagement party. You are going to let her use your house. I said I needed to think about it. There is nothing to think about. After everything we have done for you, raising you, putting up with your learning problems, dealing with all the extra work you caused us, you can do this one thing for family. The words hit like a slap, putting up with me. Extra work. As if I had been a burden they tolerated rather than a son they loved. I felt the old, familiar pressure, the lifelong pattern of compliance, the desperate need to please them even when they gave me nothing in return. Fine, I said. Just the party, nothing else. Of course, nothing else, my mother said, her tone softening now that she had gotten her way. You are a good son, Walter. She hung up. Amanda called back within 5 minutes, squealing again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is going to be amazing. She hung up without waiting for me to respond. Did not say thank you after that first flurry of words. Did not ask if the date worked for me. Just took what she wanted and moved on. Exactly like she always did. I sat there holding my phone, already regretting my decision, already knowing this was going to be worse than I imagined. 2 weeks before the party, Amanda showed up at my house with Preston and his mother. I had only met Preston twice before, both times briefly. He was a real estate agent, tall and polished, with perfect hair, and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. His mother, Constance, was a severe woman in her 60s who wore expensive clothes and looked at everything like she was evaluating its worth. This is just a quick walkthrough, Amanda said as I opened the door. We want to get a feel for the space. Behind them, a woman in her 40s wearing all black stepped out of a luxury SUV. She carried a tablet and had the efficient energy of someone who managed chaos for a living. This is Giselle, Amanda said, our wedding planner. I thought this was just an engagement party, I said. It is, but we want it to be perfect. Giselle handles all our events. The quick walkthrough turned into a 3-hour takeover of my home. Giselle walked through every room, taking notes, measuring spaces, and making pronouncements about what would go where. She started moving my furniture without asking, pushing my couch against the wall, rolling up my area rug. We'll need this space clear for the beverage station, she said, marking my wall with blue painter's tape. Excuse me, that's my living room, I said. She barely glanced at me. For the party, it will be the beverage station. Constance walked through behind her, critiquing everything she saw. These paint colors are far too rustic. The deck needs pressure washing. This kitchen is charming but quite small. And the garden, well, it needs significant work if we are going to have guests photographing out there. Preston stood in my living room with his hands in his pockets, barely acknowledging my existence. When he did speak to me, it was in the tone you would use with hired help. You'll want to clean the gutters before the party, he said. They are looking pretty rough. They're fine, I said. He shrugged. Suit yourself. Just trying to help you maintain your property value. Amanda pulled me aside into my kitchen, lowering her voice. So, we need to store some things here for about a week before the party. Just to make setup easier. What kind of things? Just the usual. Tables, chairs, some decorations. Nothing major. Over the next 3 days, I learned that nothing major meant rental tables, 200 chairs, a massive white tent, professional sound equipment, a portable bar, lighting rigs, and enough decorations to fill my 2-car garage, my shed, and half my basement. Delivery trucks arrived daily. Workers trampled through my garden beds installing ground lighting. My property stopped feeling like mine and started feeling like a venue I was involuntarily hosting. Amanda and Preston treated my house like they owned it. They showed up without calling, let themselves in through my garage, because Amanda still had the code from when she house sat for me 2 years ago, and rearranged things to suit their needs. One afternoon, I came home from work to find Preston standing in my kitchen, eating food from my refrigerator. Hope you don't mind, he said, gesturing with my leftover pizza. Amanda said to make myself at home. This is my home, I said. He laughed. Right. Sorry, man. You know what I mean. But I did not think he was sorry at all. 2 days later, Preston made a comment that stuck with me. We were standing on my deck, and he was looking out at the view with his arms crossed. Must be nice, he said, having all this space with no real responsibilities. No wife, no kids, just you and your lawn business. The dismissal in his voice was clear. I was not a real adult in his eyes. I was a child playing house. I did not respond. I just walked away, feeling the anger build in my chest like pressure behind a dam. 1 week before the party, everything changed. I came home from work, pulled into my driveway, and noticed immediately that something was wrong. My front door looked the same, but when I tried my key, it would not turn. My locks had been changed. I tried the side door, the back door. Nothing. I was locked out of my own house. Amanda's car was in my driveway. Music played inside. I could see people moving around through the windows. I pounded on the front door, my heart racing with disbelief and rage. Giselle answered, looking annoyed at the interruption. Can I help you? She asked, like I was a stranger. This is my house. Why are the locks changed? Oh. She blinked. Amanda said you knew we needed exclusive access this week for preparations. It's just easier this way. We have a very tight schedule. I pushed past her into my living room. It was unrecognizable. My furniture was gone, replaced with racks of linens and boxes of glassware. The whole space had been transformed into a storage and staging area. Amanda emerged from my kitchen, holding a clipboard. Walter, I was going to call you. Giselle needs uninterrupted time to set everything up this week, and it's just easier if you stay somewhere else. You can stay with Mom and Dad. It's only for a few days. You changed my locks, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Well, we needed to make sure nobody interrupted the setup process. This is a really important event, Walter. This is my house, and we're grateful you're letting us use it. But we've already paid deposits, signed contracts with vendors, everything is in motion. Just give us the week. You're being selfish. Preston appeared from the hallway, stepping between us like he was breaking up a fight. Let's be reasonable here, he said, his voice calm and condescending. We understand this is your property, but we have a lot of money invested in this event. A lot of people counting on us. You agreed to host the party. Just give us some space to make it perfect. It's not a big deal. Get out, I said. Walter, come on, Amanda said. Don't be dramatic. My phone rang. It was my father. Son, he said when I answered. Your mother just talked to Amanda. Just keep the peace, okay? Stay here for a week. It's not a big deal. Let them do their thing. I hung up, without responding. That's when I realized the truth. My family had planned this. They had coordinated behind my back, changed my locks, and expected me to just go along with it because that was what I always did. Not this time. I refused to leave. I stood in my own living room and told them all to get out or I would call the police. Amanda burst into tears. Real tears. The kind she had always been able to produce on command since we were children. You are ruining everything, she sobbed. Preston's family is going to think we are trash. You need to leave my house, I repeated. She ran outside, phone already to her ear. I knew who she was calling. My mother arrived within an hour, her face tight with fury. What is wrong with you? She demanded, the moment she walked through my door. Your sister is trying to have a beautiful engagement party, and you are causing problems. They changed my locks, Mom. They locked me out of my own house. Oh, don't be so dramatic. It was just for convenience. After all Amanda has been through, planning this wedding, dealing with Preston's demanding family, you cannot do this one simple thing? This is my house. A house you only have because you got lucky with your little lawn mowing business. Her voice was sharp, cutting. Some of us have real accomplishments, Walter. Some of us actually made something of ourselves. The least you can do is help your sister. There it was again. The contempt. The dismissal. The same tone she had used at that Sunday dinner when she called me dumb. Get out, I said. Her eyes widened. I had never spoken to her that way before. Excuse me? Get out of my house. Now, how dare you speak to me like that? I am your mother. And this is my property. Leave. She stared at me for a long moment, her face red with anger, then turned and stormed out. As she reached her car, she turned back and shouted, "I am going to tell the whole family what kind of person you really are." I watched her drive away, my whole body shaking. That night, I changed all the locks myself. I knew how to do it. I had been in property maintenance for years. I installed new deadbolts on every door, changed the garage code, and slept in my own bed with every door locked, feeling like a prisoner in my own home. The next morning, I woke to pounding on my front door. Through the window, I saw Amanda, Preston, and a police officer. My stomach dropped. I opened the door. The officer, a man in his 40s with a tired expression, looked at me carefully. "Are you Walter?" he asked. "Yes. I got a call about a dispute over property access. This woman says you are interfering with a contracted event and threatening the wedding party." Amanda stood behind him, her face red and puffy from crying. Preston had his arm around her, looking righteous. "Officer, this is my house. I own it. They changed my locks yesterday and tried to lock me out. I changed them back. Can I see your identification and proof of ownership?" I showed him my driver's license and pulled up the property deed on my phone, along with my mortgage statements. The officer looked at everything, then turned to Amanda. "Ma'am, this is his property. He has every right to control access. You cannot lock him out of his own house." "But we have a contract," Preston said. "We have vendors coming. We've paid deposits." "That's a civil matter," the officer said. "But you cannot prevent the property owner from accessing his own home. That's illegal." Amanda's face crumpled. "You are ruining my life, Walter." The officer looked uncomfortable. "I suggest you folks work this out amongst yourselves. Sir, you are within your rights to control access to your property." He left. Amanda and Preston stood on my porch, glaring at me. "You are going to regret this," Preston said quietly. They left. I felt a small victory, but I knew it was not over. I knew my family well enough to know they would not give up this easily. That afternoon, I walked my property carefully, really looking at it for the first time since this nightmare started. The damage was worse than I thought. Tent installation had required cutting through 3 of my underground sprinkler lines. My garden beds, which I had spent years cultivating, were trampled and destroyed in multiple places. Equipment had been dragged across my hardwood floors, leaving scratches and gouges. My garage walls had scuff marks from the stored furniture. The lawn had deep ruts from heavy trucks driving across it when the ground was wet. I took photos of everything, documenting each instance of damage. I made notes, measured, and estimated costs. Minimum repair cost, $3,000. Probably more once I really dug into it. I went to my office that afternoon, needing to focus on work, needing to think about something other than my family's betrayal. I logged into my business accounts to check on some pending invoices. That was when I saw it. A large withdrawal I did not authorize. $12,000 gone. My heart started pounding. I called my bank immediately. "Yes, Mr. Walter. I see the transaction. A check was cashed 3 days ago. I did not write that check." "Let me pull up the image." There was a pause. "It's made out to Enchanted Events LLC. Your signature is on it. Email me a copy right now." The image came through within seconds. The check was written in handwriting that was not mine. The signature was close to mine, but wrong. The loops were different. The pressure was different. Someone had forged my signature. I looked at the account details more carefully. That was when I saw it. Amanda was listed as an authorized user on the account. I had forgotten. 3 years ago, my bookkeeper quit suddenly, and I was overwhelmed trying to manage payroll and expenses. Amanda had offered to help temporarily. I added her to the account so she could handle some basic transactions while I found a replacement. That crisis passed, I hired someone new, and I never removed Amanda's access. She had been sitting on that access for 3 years, and now she had used it to steal from me. I called her immediately. She answered on the first ring, her voice defensive before I even spoke. "What? You stole $12,000 from me." "I did not steal anything. I wrote a check to pay for party expenses." "You forged my signature." "Oh, don't be so dramatic. You were going to help pay anyway. I just streamlined the process." Family helps family, Walter. That is theft, Amanda. That is a crime. She laughed. Actually laughed. Go ahead. Tell everyone you are prosecuting your little sister over her engagement party. See how that goes. See who the family sides with. You will be the villain, not me. She hung up. I sat in my truck outside my office for a long time, staring at my phone, understanding fully for the first time that my family had not just used me. They had crossed into actual criminal behavior, and they thought they could get away with it because I would never fight back. They were wrong. I went straight to my bank and sat down with the branch manager. She was a professional woman named Carol, who I had worked with for years. I need to freeze this account and remove unauthorized access, I said, showing her the forged check and the account history. Carol's expression grew serious as she reviewed everything. This is forgery. You should file a police report. I plan to. The problem is, funds that have already cleared cannot be reversed without a court order. And if the person who wrote the check claims you gave verbal permission, this becomes a civil matter rather than criminal. She did not have permission. I believe you, but you will need to prove that. In the meantime, I will remove her from the account immediately and flag your account for fraud monitoring. I went to the police station next. The detective who took my report was a woman in her 50s named Harris. She listened carefully, took notes, and then said the same thing Carol had. Family cases are complicated. If your sister claims you gave permission, it becomes he said, she said. The prosecutor will probably kick this to civil court. So she gets away with it? I did not say that. I am opening an investigation. But you need to understand, this is going to get ugly. Family cases always do. I left the station feeling frustrated but determined. Over the next 2 days, I built my case. I went through years of text messages, emails, phone records. I created a detailed spreadsheet of every dollar I had given or loaned my family over the past 6 years. The total made me sick. $47,000. My father's truck? $4,000. My mother's dental work? $6,000. My brother's contribution to his daughter's private school tuition when he had a slow year? $5,000. Amanda's rent, utilities, car repairs, credit card payments? $32,000 across multiple transactions. None of it repaid. Most of it not even acknowledged after the initial thank you. I had been a bank, not a brother or a son. While I was building my case, Amanda was building hers. My phone exploded with text messages from relatives I barely talked to. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all of them telling me I was selfish, bitter, jealous. My cousin Sarah. Seriously, Walter? You can't let your sister have one nice day? My Uncle Tom. Your mother is heartbroken. This isn't how we raised you. My Aunt Linda. Preston's family is wealthy, and you're acting like this because you're insecure. The narrative was clear. Amanda had told everyone I was sabotaging her engagement out of jealousy and spite. She made herself the victim and me the villain. My brother Marcus called on the third day. Walter, what are you doing? He asked, his lawyer voice in full effect. Did Amanda tell you she forged my signature and stole $12,000 from me? There was a long pause. She said you gave her permission. I did not. She says you did. And you believe her over me. Another pause. I believe this is getting out of hand. Just let her have the party. You can sort out the money stuff later. Don't embarrass the family over this. Even Marcus, the golden child, the one I thought might understand, was against me. She stole from me, Marcus. It's family money. Family helps family. No, it's my money. That I earned. That I worked for. You are being selfish, Walter. He hung up. I sat alone in my house that night, looking at my phone full of hostile messages, and realized I was completely alone in this. Every single member of my family had chosen Amanda over me, believed her lies over my truth, and expected me to just accept it because that was what I had always done. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer. Her name was Helen, a sharp woman in her 50s who specialized in family law and estate disputes. I found her through a business colleague who said she was ruthless but fair. I met her at her office and showed her everything. The forged check, the property damage, the messages, the financial history. She reviewed it all with a careful eye, taking notes, asking questions. Finally, she looked up at me. You have a solid case for theft and property damage. The forgery is clear. But your sister is right about one thing. This will get ugly. Family cases always do. Are you prepared for that? Yes. Are you prepared to potentially lose your relationship with your entire family? I think I already have. She nodded. Then let's build a strategy. 4 days before the scheduled party, a courier delivered a letter to my house. It was from Preston's attorney. A cease and desist order demanding I allow the engagement party to proceed as planned. The letter claimed I had entered into a verbal contract to provide the venue, and that backing out now constituted breach of contract, causing significant damages. They were threatening to sue me for venue change costs, guest inconvenience, and emotional distress. The amount listed, $65,000. I stared at the number, feeling like I had been punched in the stomach. I called Helen immediately. She read the letter and laughed. Actually laughed. "This is mostly bluster," she said. "Verbal contracts are nearly impossible to enforce for something like this. They have no proof. But they are escalating, trying to intimidate you into backing down. They are betting you will cave under pressure." I am not caving. Good. Then we proceed. That evening, my father showed up at my house. I had not spoken to him since he called telling me to stay at their place for the week. He stood on my porch, looking tired and sad. He had aged in the past few weeks, new lines around his eyes. "Can we talk?" he asked. I let him in. We sat in my living room, the same living room Giselle had tried to commandeer. "Son, I know you are hurt. I know your mother can be harsh sometimes. But please, just let this party happen. We will work everything else out after. I promise." "Did you know Amanda forged my signature?" I asked. "Did you know she stole $12,000 from me?" He looked away, could not meet my eyes. "She said you gave her permission." I did not. "And you believe her over me, don't you?" He was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "She is getting married, Walter. It's supposed to be a special time. Can't you just let this one thing go? For the family?" Something inside me broke in that moment. Not broke like shattering. Broke like a chain snapping, setting something free. "Get out of my house, Dad." He looked up, surprised. "Walter, get out." He stood slowly, looking at me like he did not recognize me. "You are making a mistake." "No, I'm not. Not anymore." He left, shaking his head, shoulders slumped. I sat alone in my house, in the dark, looking at my phone filled with messages from family members who saw me as nothing more than a resource to exploit. They wanted a party at my house? Fine, they would get one, but not the one they were expecting. I called Helen the next morning. "I want to let the party proceed," I said. "Are you sure? We can shut this down legally right now." "I am sure. But on my terms, I want everything documented legally so they cannot come back at me later." "Smart. What do you have in mind?" "I want a formal venue agreement with every protection we can think of. Liability clauses, damage deposits, explicit terms. And I want them to acknowledge in writing that they have no ownership claim to my property and that I am providing it as a one-time courtesy." "I can draft that. Anything else?" "Yes. Include a clause requiring repayment of the $12,000 within 90 days. Helen was quiet for a moment. "They will never agree to that." "They will, if the alternative is canceling the party 3 days before it happens." "You are learning fast. I will have the agreement ready in 2 hours." Helen drafted a comprehensive venue agreement that was 8 pages long. It laid out exactly what Amanda and Preston could and could not do on my property. It required a damage deposit of $5,000. It included liability insurance requirements. It stated explicitly that I was providing the venue as a one-time courtesy and that they had no legal claim to continued access. And it required repayment of the $12,000 in 3 installments over 90 days. Helen had a courier deliver it to Amanda and Preston with a cover letter stating they had 24 hours to sign or the party was canceled. Amanda called me within 10 minutes, screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "You are making me sign a contract to use my own brother's house? Are you insane? Sign it or find another venue. You have 24 hours. Preston's lawyer said, we could sue you. Let him try. You will lose, and it will cost you a lot more than just signing the agreement. I hate you, Walter. I hate you so much. 24 hours, Amanda." I hung up. Preston's lawyer called Helen an hour later, trying to negotiate. Helen shut him down with the kind of professional ice I could only admire. Her terms are non-negotiable. Sign the agreement or move the party. Those are the only two options. With 48 hours left before the party, Amanda and Preston had no choice. Every venue in the area was booked. Canceling would humiliate them in front of Preston's wealthy family and all their guests. They signed. Helen emailed me the executed agreement. I printed it, put it in a safe folder, and felt the first real sense of control I had experienced in weeks. But I was not done. Not even close. I spent the next 2 days preparing my property, but not the way Amanda expected. First, I documented everything. I walked through every room of my house with my phone, taking video and photos of every surface, every wall, every piece of furniture. I created a detailed inventory of everything in my home with timestamps and condition notes. Next, I removed everything I cared about. Family photos, important documents, my laptop, my late grandfather's watch collection that was worth more than my truck, anything irreplaceable. I packed it all carefully and moved it to a climate-controlled storage unit across town. I also called my insurance company and updated my homeowner's policy, adding a special rider for event liability. The agent asked a lot of questions. I told her my sister was having a party at my house and I wanted to make sure I was covered for any damages. She understood immediately and adjusted my coverage. Then I made some other preparations. Special preparations. I reprogrammed my sprinkler system controller with a new schedule. I set timers on my electrical panel. I made some calls to county offices and asked some very specific questions about permits and regulations for large events. The day before the party, Amanda, Preston, and Giselle arrived to do final setup. They were surprised to find me there, sitting on my porch with a cup of coffee, watching everything. "What are you doing here?" Amanda asked. "I live here. Remember?" Giselle looked nervous. "We really need to focus on setup without distractions." "I am not distracting anyone. I am just making sure everything is documented properly." I held up my phone, making it clear I was recording. They moved carefully after that, almost paranoid. Their workers were gentle with my floors. They avoided my walls. Everyone was suddenly very aware that I was watching and recording everything. Amanda tried to make small talk at one point. "Thanks for doing this, Walter. It really does mean a lot." "You signed the contract," I said. "This is a business arrangement now, not a favor." The warmth drained from her face. She walked away without another word. Preston avoided me entirely, but I caught him glaring at me several times when he thought I was not looking. As the sun started to set and the final preparations were finishing, I wandered around the property one last time, checking on things. The tent was up, white and huge, with cafe lights strung inside. The tables were set with linens and centerpieces. A bar was fully stocked. A stage was set up for the band. It looked beautiful. Professional. Expensive. It looked like the kind of party that would make Preston's family think Amanda came from money and class. I walked around the side of the house where Preston and his 3 groomsmen were standing in a circle, drinking beer from my refrigerator without asking, laughing, and talking. I stayed in the shadows, not intentionally hiding, just not announcing myself. That was when I heard Preston's voice, loud and careless. "Can you believe this idiot is letting us use his place for free after everything? Amanda's got him so whipped." One of the groomsmen laughed. "I thought you guys had to sign some contract?" "Yeah, some lawyer thing. We will just ignore it." "What's he gonna do, sue his own sister?" "These small town types are all the same. No backbone." Another groomsman added, "Your fiancé's brother seems like a tool anyway." Preston laughed. "Total loser. Peaked with a landscaping company. Probably never even been with a woman. Lives out here alone like some kind of hermit. But hey, at least he has a nice yard for us to use." They all laughed, the sound carrying across my property like breaking glass. I pulled out my phone and recorded the entire conversation. Every word, every insult, every laugh. Then I walked back to my house, packed a bag, and loaded it into my truck. Before I left, I did 3 things. First, I activated the hidden security cameras I had installed 2 days earlier. They were small, wireless, high definition, positioned throughout my property, recording everything. Completely legal in my state, as long as they were on my own property. Second, I emailed Helen everything. The video of Preston and his groomsmen, the recordings, my documentation of every step of this process. I told her to be ready. Third, I activated the plan I had been preparing. I drove to a hotel 20 minutes away, checked in, ordered room service, and settled in to watch what was about to happen. Tomorrow, my family would get exactly what they deserved. The morning of the engagement party, I woke up in my hotel room, ordered breakfast, and pulled up the security camera feeds on my laptop. I could see everything. The tent, the deck, the driveway, inside my house through the windows. Caterers arrived at 9 in the morning. Florists came next. The band showed up to do a sound check. By 11, my property looked like a professional event venue, buzzing with activity. Amanda and Preston arrived at noon, both dressed casually but expensively. Amanda was in full princess mode, directing everyone, her voice carrying across the property as she made last-minute adjustments. My mother and father showed up at 1. My mother wore a pink dress and a huge hat like she was going to a Kentucky Derby party. My father looked uncomfortable in a suit, tugging at his collar. Marcus arrived with his wife Kate, both of them looking polished and Chicago professional. Guests started arriving at 1:30. Cars lined my driveway and the road beyond. People I did not know walked across my lawn, admiring the property, the gardens, the view. Everyone was dressed beautifully. Everyone was smiling. Amanda and Preston stood near the entrance of the tent, greeting people like royalty receiving subjects. Preston's family arrived in 3 luxury cars. His mother Constance wore cream and pearls, looking like old money. His father was a tall man with silver hair, who surveyed everything with the critical eye of someone used to evaluating value. Everything appeared perfect. The weather was flawless. The decorations were magazine-worthy. The food smelled amazing even through my laptop speakers. At 2 o'clock, exactly 1 hour into the party, my first surprise activated. The sprinkler system turned on. Every single zone. All at once. Full pressure. Water erupted across my entire property. Guests scattered, screaming. Women in expensive dresses ran for cover. Men grabbed their drinks and fled. The band on the stage tried to protect their equipment, but it was too late. Speakers got drenched. The catered food on the outdoor tables was destroyed. Flower arrangements were knocked over by the force of the water. I had programmed it to run for 45 minutes. Amanda's screams were audible even through my laptop. She ran around in the chaos, her hair plastered to her head, her dress soaked, trying to get people under the tent. Preston sprinted to the sprinkler control box on the side of my house. I watched him punch buttons frantically, but I had changed all the codes. He could not shut it off. Giselle appeared with her phone, probably calling sprinkler repair companies. Guests huddled under the tent, some laughing nervously, some angry, all of them soaked. The sprinklers finally shut off at 2:45. Silence fell across the property, except for the dripping water and angry voices. People were drenched. The carefully styled hair was ruined. Makeup ran down faces. Expensive clothes were soaked through. Amanda stood in the middle of what was supposed to be her perfect party, crying, her mascara in black streaks down her cheeks. Giselle tried to salvage things. Caterers brought out the food that had been kept inside. The band dried off their equipment. Staff tried to squeegee water off tables and chairs. People started to relax again, laughing about it now, making jokes about unexpected showers. Some guests changed into spare clothes they had in their cars. By 3:15, the party was recovering. People were eating, drinking, trying to enjoy themselves despite being damp and uncomfortable. That was when my second surprise activated. All the power in my house cut out. The music stopped. The lights inside the tent went dark. The refrigeration for the bars stopped working. Complete silence. Then confusion. Then anger. It was July. 92 degrees. With no power, the inside of my house became an oven within minutes. The tent, with no fans running, became unbearable. Preston was on his phone immediately, screaming at electricians. But it was Saturday afternoon of a holiday weekend. Nobody was available for emergency calls. Guests started leaving. First a few, then more, then a steady stream. Amanda begged people to stay. "Please, we will fix this. Just give us a few minutes." But people were hot, uncomfortable. Their clothes still damp from the sprinklers. The food was warm now, Unsafe to eat. The bar had no ice. By 4 o'clock, half the guests had left. My mother cornered Amanda in the driveway. I could not hear what they said, but my mother's face was red and angry. Amanda was crying again, gesturing wildly. Marcus stood with his arms crossed, talking to his wife, both of them looking at the disaster around them. Preston's family huddled together near their cars. Constance's face tight with disapproval. The remaining guests, about 60 people, were still trying to make the best of it. Some sat in the shade. Some drank warm wine. Some stood around talking, making awkward conversation. Then, at 5 o'clock, my final surprise arrived. 3 vehicles pulled up. 2 police cars and a white truck with county government plates. A county inspector stepped out, clipboard in hand. 2 police officers followed. I had called them that morning with an anonymous tip about an unpermitted large gathering with potential safety violations at my address. The inspector walked through the property, taking notes. He checked the tent installation, the electrical setup for the band, the temporary bar. Then he started asking questions. Who obtained the permits for this event? Who licensed the alcohol service? Was the tent properly inspected and permitted? What was the occupancy limit for this property with this setup? Amanda and Preston stood there, looking panicked. They had no permits, no proper licenses, no inspections. The inspector found multiple code violations. The tent was not properly permitted. The bar was serving alcohol without the correct licenses. The occupancy had exceeded safe limits. The electrical setup for the band was not up to code for outdoor events of this size. The police documented everything, taking photos, writing reports. Then the inspector made his pronouncement. This event is shut down immediately. All guests need to leave the property. The hosts may face fines for the violations. Guests started leaving quickly now, not wanting to be involved in whatever legal trouble was unfolding. Preston's family looked mortified. Constance marched up to Amanda, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Your daughter is a disaster," she said to my mother, who had appeared at Amanda's side. "This whole family is beneath us." My mother tried to defend Amanda, but Constance cut her off with a wave of her hand. "Do not speak to me. We will not be associated with this catastrophe." Preston, standing nearby, heard everything. His face was red. Whether from heat or embarrassment, I could not tell. He turned on Amanda. "This is your fault. You said your brother would handle everything. You said this would be perfect. You said your family had class. He sabotaged us," Amanda screamed. "Walter did this on purpose." A police officer overheard. "Walter? Is that the property owner?" "Yes, my brother," Amanda said, tears streaming down her face. "Ma'am, we spoke to Walter this morning. He filed a formal complaint about this event. Said you did not have proper permits or permission for an event this size. He's the one who called us." The truth crashed down on everyone at once. Not bad luck. Not accidents. Me. I had orchestrated every bit of it. My mother pulled out her phone and called me. I watched her on my laptop screen, phone to her ear, pacing angrily. I did not answer. I just watched. She called again. 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 I let it ring every time. The property cleared out. The inspector handed Preston a citation packet. Fines, totaling $8,000 for various code violations and unpermitted activities. Preston stared at the papers in his hand, then looked at Amanda with something close to hatred. "We're done," he said quietly. "What?" Amanda's voice was small, broken. "We're done. This engagement is over. I cannot marry into this family." He walked to his car. His family followed without a word. They drove away, leaving Amanda standing in my driveway, alone. My mother and father tried to comfort her, but she pushed them away, sobbing. Marcus, ever the lawyer, finally seemed to understand. Walter planned this, every single part of it. He let us get far enough in that we could not back out, then he destroyed it. Legally, my mother spun to look at him. That ungrateful, vindictive. She stopped herself, but I knew what word she was about to say. Dumb, the same word she had used at that Sunday dinner. The word that had started all of this. But she could not say it now, because what I had done was not dumb at all. It was calculated, strategic, and perfectly executed. Giselle and her crew packed up what they could. The caterers left. The band loaded their equipment. The rental company would come tomorrow for the tent and tables. By 7 o'clock, my property was empty except for the mess they left behind. I closed my laptop, checked out of my hotel, and drove home. I pulled into my driveway as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across my property. The white tent glowed in the fading light, looking ghostly and abandoned. Trash littered my lawn. Broken decorations lay scattered everywhere. Mud was tracked across my deck. It was a disaster. But it was my disaster now. My property, my space, my life. I walked through everything slowly, documenting the damage with my phone. Broken chairs, stained linens abandoned in piles, deep ruts in my lawn from cars parking on wet grass, scratches on my deck from moved furniture, cigarette butts ground into my gravel driveway, even though I specifically said no smoking on the property. I spent 3 hours that night taking photos and videos, measuring, making notes, estimating costs. Total property damage, just over $15,000. I sent everything to Helen via email. Then I sat on my porch with a beer, looking out at the mess, and felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not anger, just a cold, clear sense of purpose. The next week was silent. No calls from my family, no texts, nothing. Then the lawsuit started. Helen filed on my behalf. One lawsuit against Amanda for the forged check, $12,000 plus interest and legal fees. Another claim for property damage, $15,000 plus restoration costs. We also filed a separate claim against Preston's family. They had signed the venue agreement, which included damage deposit requirements and liability clauses. They were contractually responsible for the condition of the property. Amanda tried to countersue for emotional distress, claiming I had sabotaged her engagement party. Her lawyer took one look at the evidence, the signed agreement, the recordings of Preston insulting me, the documentation of her theft, and dropped her as a client. Preston's family wanted to avoid publicity. A scandal about an engagement party disaster would not look good for their real estate business. Their lawyer contacted Helen within 3 days. They settled for the full $15,000 in property damage. The check arrived within a week. But they did something else too. They made absolutely certain Preston ended the engagement permanently. Constance called Amanda personally to tell her that her son would never marry into our family, and if Amanda tried to contact him again, they would pursue harassment charges. Amanda was devastated. She had lost her fiancé, her dream wedding, her future life with Preston's money and status. She had also lost her job a month earlier to focus on wedding planning. Now she had nothing. 2 weeks after the party, my mother showed up at my house. I saw her car pull up and considered not answering the door. But I decided to face this, to end it properly. I opened the door. She looked older than I had ever seen her, tired. The anger was gone, replaced by something that looked like defeat. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice quiet. I let her in. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Preston had helped himself to my food. The same table where I had sat so many times, alone, wondering why my family treated me the way they did. "I did not know how bad it had gotten," she said, not looking at me. "Your father and I, we enabled her. We let her treat you like a bank." "You did more than enable her, Mom. You participated. You called me dumb in front of the whole family. You toasted to having a stupid relative with money." Her face crumbled. Tears started streaming down her cheeks. "You heard that. Every word. I never meant. Walter, you have to understand. Raising you was so hard. Your learning problems, the special meetings at school, the tutors, and Marcus was so easy. And Amanda needed so much attention. So, I became the punchline," I said, my voice flat. "The one you did not have to respect. The ATM you could make fun of while using. I am sorry. I am so sorry." "Are you sorry because you mean it? Or are you sorry because I finally fought back and now there are consequences?" She had no answer for that. She just sat there, crying, her hands trembling on my table. "I think you need to leave now," I said. She stood slowly, wiping her eyes. "Will you ever forgive us?" "I don't know. But I will not forget, and things will never be the same." She walked to the door, then turned back. "What do I tell your sister?" "Tell her to get a job and pay back what she owes me." My mother left. I watched her car disappear down my driveway, and felt something close to peace. 3 days later, Marcus called. I almost did not answer, but curiosity got the better of me. I should have stood up for you, he said without preamble. I saw what they did. I watched them use you for years. And I said nothing, because it was easier. You said nothing because you were protecting your position as the golden child, I replied. You're right. I was protecting myself. It was cowardly. At least you're honest about it now. For what it's worth, Walter, I'm impressed. What you did took real intelligence and guts. You outsmarted all of us. I just defended myself. You did more than that. You taught us a lesson we all needed to learn. The conversation did not last long. It was not reconciliation, but it was acknowledgement, which was more than I expected. Amanda never called, never apologized, never acknowledged what she had done. The court case proceeded. She had no way to pay the judgment, so it went to wage garnishment once she finally found another job. She would be paying me back in small increments for years. She moved back in with our parents, the princess with no kingdom. For the first time in her life, Eleanor and Donald saw her clearly. The entitlement, the manipulation, the selfishness. 3 months passed. I focused on my business, my property, my life. I repaired all the damage from the party, making everything better than it had been before. I redesigned the garden beds, installed new sprinkler lines, refinished my deck. I started dating someone I met at a business networking event. Her name was Jenna, and she owned a small accounting firm in town. She was smart, kind, and funny. She had her life together, in a way I found incredibly attractive. On our 4th date, sitting at a nice restaurant, she asked about my family. I had not planned to tell her. It felt too raw, too complicated, but something about her steady gaze and genuine interest made me want to be honest. I told her everything. The Sunday dinner, the theft, the party, all of it. She listened without interrupting, her expression never changing to pity or shock, just thoughtful attention. When I finished, she reached across the table and took my hand. You did the right thing, she said simply. Family should not mean being a doormat. It should mean being valued. Those words meant more to me than I could express. 6 months after the engagement party disaster, I received a letter in the mail, handwritten, from Amanda. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. The letter was 3 pages long. It was not quite an apology, but it was close. She wrote about her life falling apart, about living with our parents and seeing how disappointed they were in her, about getting therapy and starting to understand how entitled she had become, about Preston's family blacklisting her in their social circles so she could not even escape the shame by moving away. She wrote, I've had a lot of time to think about what I became. Preston's family called us trash. Mom cries every day. Dad barely speaks. Marcus sends money sometimes, but won't visit. I destroyed everything, and you were the only one brave enough to stop me. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know, I finally understand what I did to you. All those years, all that money, all that disrespect. You deserved better. You deserved a real family. I read the letter twice. Then I put it in a drawer in my desk. Maybe one day I would respond. Maybe not. For now, it was enough to know she finally understood that the message had been received. I did not need her apology to move forward with my life. I had already done that. 7 months after everything happened, I stood on my deck one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and purple over my 15 acres. The gardens were blooming. The grass was green and healthy. Everything I had built was mine again, free from their demands and expectations. Jenna stood beside me, her hand in mine, both of us just enjoying the quiet. This is beautiful, she said softly. It is now, I replied. She looked at me, understanding the weight behind those words. My property, my business, my life I had, built all of it myself. Not despite being called dumb, not despite struggling in school, not despite my family's dismissal and disrespect, but because I never believed their version of who I was. I learned the hardest lesson that summer. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you most are the ones who damage you deepest. They take your kindness for weakness. They mistake your generosity for stupidity. They use you until you have nothing left to give. And sometimes, the greatest act of love you can give yourself is the courage to walk away. Or, in my case, to change the locks. Family is supposed to lift you up, not tear you down for their benefit. Being kind does not mean being weak. Knowing when to stop being kind, when to set boundaries, when to fight back, that is real strength. You cannot fix people who do not want to see what they have become. You cannot make people respect you who are determined to see you as less than you are. Your worth is not determined by the people who refuse to see it. Your value is not measured by what you give to people who do not appreciate it. Real success is not about what you sacrifice for people who take you for granted. It is about what you build for yourself and those who truly value you. I stood there on my deck, Jenna beside me, my property peaceful and whole again, and I felt something I had not felt in years. Free. The weight of their expectations, their demands, their judgments, all of it was gone. I had cut myself loose from people who saw me as a resource rather than a person. Some families are born, some are built, and sometimes the family you build for yourself is the only one worth having. I had learned to value myself enough to demand that others do the same. And the ones who could not do that, they were no longer my problem. So let me ask you something. Have you ever been treated like an ATM by the people who were supposed to love you? Have you ever been mocked by family while they took advantage of your success? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear your story. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about standing up for yourself and finding your way through family drama. And share this with someone who needs to hear that it is okay to set boundaries with family, even when it is hard. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminded you that you are worth more than how others treat you. You deserve respect, you deserve appreciation, and you deserve to build a life that makes you proud. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is change the locks on people who refuse to see your worth.